the old thing about the old line about Ohio is true. In Ohio, we make things and grow things. So just from what we do in our state, and our district is a great example of that. I always point out, our district is west central, north central Ohio, just comes kind of across the center of the state, and there are 435 congressional districts in the country, each with approximately 800,000 people in them. We're in like the top 20, I think, top 25 when it comes to manufacturing output. Huge manufacturing. And of course, a lot of it so much is right here on the 33 corridor, Honda, but we got all these other great companies as well. And then we're also top 25, 30 districts in agriculture. We're the start of the kind of the serious corn and grain belt across the greater Midwest.
Welcome to the Small Nation Podcast, brought to you by CoverLink Insurance, where people are more important than policies. On this show, we unpack lessons from entrepreneurs, break down development strategies, and do deep dives on small town success. Our goal is to provide value to our listeners by hosting conversations that teach, inform, and inspire.
Hey guys, welcome to the Small Nation Podcast. Today I'm really excited to have the first congressman on the show, Jim Jordan. Jim has been my congressman. I grew up in Logan County, served there, and then I moved to Hardin County for a number of years and represented that area, and now I'm in Union County. So I've got the trifecta and been my congressman, but Jim grew up in Champaign County, right, Jim? And so St.
I didn't
Paris.
realize you'd moved to Union. Huh?
Yeah, I'm in Union now, so right up the road. But Jim is from the big city of St. Paris, right? Graduated from Graham High School. So when I was in school, one of our sports rivalries was Graham because I went to Indian Lake. And some of my best friends in school happened to be a wrestling family. So the Clofta family, 3 brothers.
We're all good.
Very big. Jim is one of their mentors. And so, of course, if you know anything about Graham High School, they have a program. And Jim and his brother and family have invested big in that. But wrestling's a big part of the DNA there. Graduated in 82, moved on and a pretty impressive record of 150-1. Yeah. Okay.
Still remember that one loss.
Ouch. Yeah. But sometimes that loss humbles a little bit.
No, it's very good for you. Yeah. I still wish I'd have won, but it's very good for you. Yeah.
Well, the other thing, he went on to get a degree in economics, and I think almost in our daily conversations related to what we do here at Small Nation, a lot of those decisions are driven by economics. So excited to talk more about that, but went to Wisconsin. And the Badgers, right? Yeah, the Badgers. And then later on to Ohio State University and then Capital Law School. But Jim's a proud husband, father, 4 kids.
4 kids, 7 granddaughters. Yep.
7 granddaughters.
Wow.
That's awesome. So family is a big important part. And what's unique about the political background is you were involved in state politics and then made the jump to federal. And one of the people that came up as refresh your bio was Bob Cupp. I think you served after Bob. Is that right?
I did in the Senate.
So Bob, one of my favorite classes in school at Ohio Northern is Professor Cupp taught the class, and the class was on leadership. And so I want to talk more about leadership because I think you've got an interesting perspective from the various roles that you've had. But probably the thing, today, if you turn on the news, if you're watching Fox or you're watching CNN, there's probably going to be a clip of Jim Jordan in the evening news. And the thing that I've always admired about you is that the humility that you demonstrate in the district and the connection and approachability that you have with issues that maybe come up. No matter of what's playing in the media, and you have to represent yourself and your views and your values there, but you're willing to be on our podcast today. So that means a lot to us. But welcome to the show.
Well, good to be with you. Thanks. Thanks for the just tremendous difference you're making and the good work you're doing. I know mostly about this town because we come to Bellefontaine so much, and you're so close to where we're from and where we grew up. But it's truly impressive. We were just looking at the stats, the number of restaurants in your town, what you're doing to renovate buildings, the historical. I mean, it's just amazing what you're doing. So God bless you guys, and it's good to be with you.
Thank you. Yeah, well, the Small Nation story really started that a lot of us on the team, and there's 17 of us now, we grew up in small towns.
Yeah.
And there was an experience about that. For those people that are not from Ohio, I kind of equate it to your friends and your neighbors are your business owners. They're your coaches. They're, they're teaching in your Bible school, and that whole concept of community. What was really for me growing up in family business, it was seeing how doing things that was creating economic investment and activity and employment fueled and funded everything else in community.
Yep.
And what happened in Bellefontaine is not different from a lot of other towns around the country, is that there's these economic cycles. So we hit a period in the 80s where, Walmart, one of the first Walmarts in all of Ohio, opened up right here in Bellefontaine, Ohio. So having small business parents like experiencing and seeing how they were trying to compete against a mass merchandiser, that was a really powerful experience as a young man.
Sure.
So coming out of school, we had a lot of empty buildings around here. We had a high unemployment. We had a tough time finding ways to get young people to come back to small towns. And so the whole model about building small town success has been interviewing guests on this podcast that share their perspective, their background, their story of how they're impacting their town, their community, their country.
Yep.
And so tell us a little about St. Paris. What was it like for you growing up there?
Well, St. Paris, small town of a couple thousand people. We lived out in the country, just a few miles south there, but that was sort of the, our address and where I grew up playing Little League baseball and Pee Wee baseball, as they say. But it's a nice little town. It's they call it Pony Wagon Days. They used to way back when build the pony wagon there, and so it's a quaint little town. But our county Champaign County is like Logan County. You got the county seat, the main city, Urbana. Up here, you got Bellefontaine. You got you got the St. Paris, like you have West Liberty, and like you have other towns in Logan County and DeGraff and all these places. We got Mechanicsburg and St. Paris and Rosewood, and so it's a great little community, good people. And we were just raised in a small town country school, same school my mom and dad went to, same school Polly and I went to. I've known my wife since in 4th grade.
Wow.
That's awesome.
In fact, today is our anniversary of all
Happy
things.
anniversary.
Yeah, 38 years today.
Wow.
It's funny. It just was I said happy anniversary to her today before I left, but yeah, I just thought of that again. So yeah, we're and wrestling became the thing we wanted to do.
Yeah.
I always joke and say when I was in grade school, I had life figured out like most young people do. I knew what I was going to do when I grew up. I knew I was going to play middle linebacker for the Pittsburgh.
There you go. Yes.
for the Pittsburgh
Yeah.
Steelers, because I grew up in the 70s, and when you followed the winners, and the winning team was the Steelers, and I loved Terry Bradshaw, Franco Harris. I can name them all, but especially the defense, the Steel Curtain. But my favorite guy was Jack Lambert, an Ohio guy who played middle linebacker for the Steelers, and I was like, that's what I'm going to do. But as you can see, the good Lord had other designs, because I'm 5'7.5" on a good day. So it became wrestling, and wrestling's been great for our family. My brother does very well in the wrestling business. And of course, he's had a just tremendous record coaching our high school, and so it's been great for our entire family. Our boys wrestled for the Badgers, his boys wrestled for the Buckeyes, had great college careers, and we've really enjoyed it.
What has wrestling done for you professionally?
Well, it's an attitude, and it doesn't have to be wrestling. It can be whatever you're into. My wife was into 4-H, and she was an athlete. It can be whatever you're into, and it could be another sport. But for me, it's just about the sports are good for kids if they're done right. Mm. If they're actually teaching them those concepts, those principles about having a goal, working hard, sacrificing, working with a team, working with your coach, learning from all those things. That's why we have. That's why we have athletics in an educational system in our educational environment. It's because it's supposed to teach kids those. It's why the military academies have sports at the academies.
Sure.
So they know that develops true leaders, both on the athletic field, just like it would in our military. So it was good for me, and I tell folks. Plus, when you're old like me now, the closest thing you can get to a wrestling match is a hearing where that witness is, I don't think, been square with the folks I get the privilege of representing, and my job is to
ask the tough questions.
Is to get after them, and so wrestling's been great. It's been really good for our family, and like I said, my brother, his business is just doing well. He's in the wrestling apparel, the shoe business, and then of course his wrestling camps, and that's been great.
That's awesome.
We have a lot of guests on the show that talk about the importance of grit, and sometimes that skill, is not discussed much today. And I know a part of your background when you went to DC, you kind of didn't fit the mold for a lot of other congressmen. I mean, I heard a story once that when you first started out, you had a cot in your office.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Is that true?
Oh yeah. Yes. And still do that some. Yeah, it's like I like the way you say grit, but I was telling this to someone the other day. One of the things I think we've lost a little bit of in the country is this we should embrace competition. Mm-hmm. Competing is good. Mm-hmm. And when I was a kid, I competed every day at school, every day on the playground. We played kickball. We played wiffle ball. We had races. We got in fights. You could do that back in those days. I mean, it was just like there was competition every day on the playground. Yeah. We had a wonderful PE teacher, Mr. Cook, great teacher. And we competed in PE class in a good way. He had different sports he would teach us, and you'd have little competitions and games, and he'd have tournaments after school, and he started the track and cross country. It was all, and in the classroom, I truly believe this. I don't know if I'd ever learned my multiplication tables, but for the game we played in class where they would do the flashcards and you had to compete, called Around the World, and you had to compete against a person sitting in this seat. If you won, you moved to the next, and the goal was to go around and you got like maybe some prize or something. But it was the competition that got me focused on learning 7 times 6 is 42. You know, that is how it worked.
Yeah.
And I think we're losing some of that in our culture. So wrestling is as basic as it gets. Two guys step on the mat. If you can pick him up and throw him down more than he can do it to you, you win. It doesn't get more fundamental than that. But and it's not for everyone. I'm not saying it is, but it was good for me, good for my brother, and all our boys who did it as well.
What you think about, you represent in the 4th District, you've got 13 counties, right? So 11 full counties, but 13 kind of areas within that.
Great people.
And a lot of people, when you go to other parts of the country and you say you're from Ohio, some people get it confused with Iowa. You ever had that before? Yeah. You're from Iowa. I've got some friends in Iowa.
Somewhere in the middle.
I think it's the other way around more. They confuse Iowa with Ohio.
And I love Iowa people. Like the Iowa nice thing is a real thing.
Yeah.
But I think part of that competitiveness, how have you, with your terms that you've served, how have you seen Ohio be viewed differently?
Well, I mean, I always say, the old thing about the old line about Ohio is true. In Ohio, we make things and grow things. So just from what we do in our state, and our district is a great example of that. I always point out, our district is west central, north central Ohio, just comes kind of across the center of the state, and there are 435 congressional districts in the country, each with approximately 800,000 people in them. We're in like the top 20, I think, top 25 when it comes to manufacturing output. Huge manufacturing. And of course, a lot of it so much is right here on the 33 corridor, Honda, but we got all these other great companies as well. And then we're also top 25, 30 districts in agriculture. We're the start of the kind of the serious corn and grain belt across the greater Midwest. So it's in it, and yet we're the 7th largest state. So it's like we got this huge manufacturing, yet we're also big agriculture, but we got close to 12 million people, and we're the 7th largest state in the country. It's this amazing mix, and you have what I always try to point out to people. We have this. We got big cities.
Right.
We got small towns, as you and I grew up in small towns. We got African Americans, Hispanic Americans. We got Appalachia, which is much different than Cleveland.
Sure.
But it is amazing mix. So politically, Ohio used to be considered the kind of the composite of the country, the bellwether state politically. It was 50-50. Well, that's changed with Trump, with President Trump, because it's now like a strong pro-Trump Republican state. But it's just a great mix, and it's a smaller sort of, as I said, a composite of what the entire nation's like. I love the state. Like I said, I love the mix, and I love Ohio in the summer, where we live, and I even like the humidity some in the summer.
Yeah, well, and credit to a lot of the state leadership in the last few years too. It seems like from an economic development perspective, we've had some guests on from Jobs Ohio. We've had other state legislators that have been on the podcast, but really getting aligned around a marketing campaign again about communicating all those things that you mentioned of what makes Ohio the strength with manufacturing and innovation. That's in our DNA. You go back 100 years, and we were the West. We were the new country of some really powerful creators. But today, a lot of things that I hear on the national, you turn the news on, the CHIPS Act and Intel and the kind of investments that's happening in our state, and of course Honda, and there's lots of innovations that are happening with electric vehicles, and they're trying to be the forefront of that. But what are you most proud of, like of what's kind of happening, and maybe some hand that you've had in shaping that?
Well, I don't know if I've had much in shaping anything, but I do think what you said about the history of this state, if you get a chance, David McCullough passed away a year and a half ago, but the books McCullough wrote about our history, read The Pioneers, which is, it talks about these were Revolutionary War officers who went to Congress, got the charter, and to settle Ohio. Everyone wanted to come to Ohio because, like you said, it was the West. It was like the happening place.
Yeah.
And they get to Pittsburgh, take the barges and the boats down, and they land at Marietta, and that became how they launched Ohio and the settlement of Ohio, and frankly the entire Northwest Territory. So fascinating book. But what the other book I like best of McCullough's, that's a great book, and I read John Adams, 1776, another couple great books. But his book on the Wright brothers, just fascinating. And the first maybe it's the first paragraph, it's the first page, if I remember right, in the book on the Wright brothers. He said, someone once asked Wilbur Wright what it takes to be successful. And he said, pick out 2 good parents and be born in Ohio. And it was,
I love that.
And it's a great message because it's like Ohio values, just normal, regular Midwestern people. But I also think it's a message to America. If you got a good family and you live in America, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Sky's the limit. You set a goal, work hard, good things can happen. And then you follow these brothers. They just decided they were going to do it. They were going to be the first motorized flight, take off, fly, land.
Bold.
And
Right.
Their competition in Europe was getting all kinds of subsidies from the government. They didn't take a penny. They just did it the old-fashioned American way. A goal, a dream, hard work, and it happens. And it is a fascinating story about these guys. And they were just, and then you think about, so from that's in Kitty Hawk, 1903, and then it's 44 years later, 1947, Chuck Yeager breaks the sound barrier just across the border, West Virginia kid. And then 22 years after that, 1969, another Ohioan steps on the moon.
Yeah.
So in 66 years, this state, we went from 2 guys flying 100 feet, some beach in North Carolina, to another Ohioan in our district, Wapakoneta, Ohio, who steps on the moon. It's like, that's Ohio. The aviation history in the state is just truly phenomenal. But it's like, I think it's an American spirit, but it happened with, and John Glenn in between orbits. It's like a fascinating stuff with our state.
There is so much vitriolness, negativity. Like, those are the stories, and I think we need to be good storytellers of reminding people our roots, our history, and get inspired about something.
Yeah.
How do we interject more of that in the national conversation? Like, and it kind of lead into like thinking about leadership, because I think it's an important topic. Like, when you were growing up, the people that you looked up to, whether they were athletes or I want to be the president someday, you look and you turn the news on, it's pretty vitriol and negative.
Yeah.
Like,
no, too much division.
How do we change that? What do we do?
It starts with the top. It starts with the president. I had a conversation once with Steny Hoyer, who's he used to be, he's no longer in Democrat leadership, but one of the senior members of the Democrats in the House, longtime number 2 to Nancy Pelosi. And we were talking about, like, it's too divisive, and it is. And I said to him, I said, well, Steny, you can make a difference. You talk to the president. I don't talk to President Biden. You can talk to President Biden. It starts there. But you're right. All of us can do that. So what I try to do is fight the good fight without being mean about it. Former Vice President Mike Pence had a line. He says, I'm a conservative and I'm not mad about it. And that should be our attitude. Now, I'm a big President Trump supporter. I want him to be our next president. I thought he was the best president we've ever had, certainly in my lifetime. And he gets a bad rap because if he were sitting here with us right now, you guys would love him, because he's if he's having an event, he's the best host in the world. He's just like, he's nice he talks to Polly, he talks to our kids. He's just super. And of course, the press never covers that because they're out to get him. But it starts with leadership, and we just don't have it right now in our current situation. And I wish it wasn't as divisive. Well, I try to, like, I went to the inauguration. I go to every State of the Union, regardless of who's in the White House. I think it's important.
Yeah.
So we can, I guess, that kind of example, I I hope it helps a little bit, but it really, I think it starts at the top with the president in our political system.
As you think about, and this is something else I think we've lost, is you mentioned other parties, you mentioned other people. You may not share the same beliefs or values, but you can respect them.
Of course.
That doesn't come, but if you watch TV and I think that's again part of the divide that you're saying we need to solve.
Yeah.
We're not seeing leaders that are showing those examples through the media.
So the example I was talking about, because he's a friend, and we just got to visit because he's running RFK Jr.'s campaign. I probably invited more Democrats to speak in front of our committee than any Republican chairman. I don't know how long time, but we invited Matt Taibbi, award-winning journalist, Michael Schellenberger, award-winning journalist. We invited them to testify, both them. We invited Tulsi Gabbard to come testify. We invited RFK Jr. to come testify on censorship, and his chairman of his campaign is Dennis Kucinich, who's a friend.
Right.
Dennis he's a great guy, and he and I are so far apart on policy, but Dennis is, and this is so important. Dennis is an old school liberal who I have the utmost respect for. I don't agree with their positions on policy, but he's an old school liberal because he believes and embraces the First Amendment. And his idea is we have this amazing thing in this greatest country ever, this First Amendment, where we can debate, we can settle disputes through debate, and then you have a vote, and you know what? You shake hands, you get ready for the next thing. That's how it's supposed to be. But today's hardcore left, which unfortunately has too much control, and I think ultimate control of the Democrat Party, they're against free speech and the First Amendment. Dennis isn't, and it's why we're friends. And we served on the committee together. He was chair when they were in the majority of the subcommittee. I was chair of the subcommittee when we were in the majority, and we could work on things.
Right.
That's how it's supposed to be. But unfortunately, for some reason, we've lost that, and it's is really frustrating, and more importantly, it's just not healthy for the nation.
And I think that trickles down even down to the local government. I mean, a lot of our listeners are dealing with, city officials versus, or public-private partnerships and things like that. And so that's some of the feedback that we get all the time is how do you just not get stuck in some of those, traps, I guess, where division causes those things. So to our listeners, that's what I'd like you to, take away from that is that you got to remember they're people. They're allowed to express their opinion, as are you. And, you have to have a conversation and work together on not getting stuck on these issues.
No, well, and I'm going to share, as a citizen, learning about DC, it was very intimidating, like starting out. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, your perspective when you were working here in the state and you have this brand new job, you walk into these shiny halls that are marble lined, but like, I just want to share, recently our team took a trip to DC and we had a chance to talk with policymakers, made a number of appointments, and I'm always amazed at how approachable people in Congress are. Like they and their staff want to hear from you. Yep. And I think that was a big surprise for me. And how do you kind of keep tabs on the district? What is a good way for people listening that are maybe frustrated with a particular law or want to get feedback? Yeah. What is the best way that they should reach
the old-fashioned way? Call our office, write a letter, send us an email, whatever. We make an effort to respond to everyone in our district. I always point out, it's one of the reasons you come back home and you get out and about. Like today, we started in Sydney. We're going to be here. Then we were in Urbana, and then up here, and then back in Urbana. Is you're a representative, and it's hard to represent folks if you don't go talk to them. For goodness' sake,
right?
And I try to remember, in the history of this country, the greatest country ever, only about 12,000 people have had the opportunity to serve in the Congress. So think about it. Millions and millions and millions of people over 200 plus years in the greatest nation ever, the longest running republic in history, only about 12,000. So it is a privilege.
Right.
And if you get that privilege, go talk to the folks you get to represent. If they put you in office, if your name's on the ballot and they elect you, go do what you told them you were going to do. So I try to focus on that, and then go back and talk to them about it and explain what's going on and answer their questions. And frankly, be willing to stand there when they want to yell at you, because that's part of the job too.
Yeah.
So we try to do that. And I,
Can I ask you about that real quick, about people yelling at you? One of the things that Bob Cupp, we talked about him earlier, shared about leadership, and it never really sunk in until I had more life experience. But he said being a leader,
until you were a commissioner,
yeah, exactly. To be a leader is a very lonely world, right? So you deal with a lot of vitriolness. I mean, I guarantee you when we make this post about the podcast, there will be a lot of our friendly, our flaming arrows that will be coming.
You guys wanted to do it. You're gonna,
but
you're taking the reputational
here's my
risk,
thing.
not me.
That's fine.
I experience it on a smaller level, but it's like, get to know me, or let's talk about, I'd like to understand your issue. I may not agree with you, but I can respect you. But how do you handle that heat of those flaming arrows?
Well, it's never fun. I mean, no one likes for people to, particularly when it's not true, which is most of the time from a lot of the mainstream and sort of legacy press. It's just like it's not false. It's just false stuff they're putting out there.
Right.
So it's not fun, but it's just now part of the deal. And I guess the longer you do it, the more you sort of get used to it, and you try to take some consolation in the fact that, okay, maybe they're coming after me because we're actually making a difference and we're fighting for the things that the folks back home want me to fight for. But you just keep moving on, and they're going to say the things they're going to say. They're going to attack you, and you try to remember that the country is more important, that the folks you represent, the families, the business owners, the communities that you get the privilege of serving, like you're there to serve them. So now it's nice when you come back home because a lot of people appreciate what you're trying to do.
Right,
they're friendly, but in DC you're like. You just get looks and you get people saying things, and we've had to do all kinds of things with security, and it's just like, but it is what it is.
How is DC the same and different from growing up from Champaign County?
Well, I would just say maybe answer it this way. I've been there now 17 years, and it's much more divisive. We talked about this earlier now than it was 17 years ago, and that's not necessarily a good thing. And it's just that town, I'm a Republican, a conservative Republican. That town is so left. I mean, I think it was like 91% voted for the Democrat, for Biden, and over President Trump in District of Columbia. So it's just a whole different animal. Right. Think about Logan County and Champaign County. It's a flip. It's almost a flip. We're 70% for Trump here. So yeah, there's that, and it's just a big city. I tell you. This was probably 2 years ago. I shared this story because it just stuck with me. It's a week before Christmas, so no, it's 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. It was a week before Christmas, 2020, and I had to go to this office to former Senator DeMint wanted to talk to me about something, so I went there, and it's right on Independence Avenue. So I go there, and I had to sign something, or I think he wanted to sign a picture or something, and we had talked about something. So I step out of his office, and it's, again, right on Independence Avenue, and it's the Capitol is just, you can see the Capitol. It's a wonderful sunny day. It's a week before Christmas. The sun's hitting the dome of the Capitol, and it's just a beautiful day. And coming down the sidewalk is this gentleman pushing a double stroller with two little kids in it. And I'm like, this is as apple pie as it gets, right? This is like the nation's capital, a week before Christmas, the sun on the dome, beautiful day, clouds in the sky, and two little kids in a stroller. So I did what you guys would do, what anyone in Logan County would do. I just I didn't even say anything. I just smiled at the guy, like, God bless America. And he recognized me, and like, that's that Jordan crazy kid. He gave me this scowl, like, and I'm like, dude, I don't care if you're liberal or what. Like, I just like, Merry Christmas. That was my Merry Christmas smile, right?
Yeah,
like, what the heck?
Right.
And it's like, I don't know. So that's the difference. That would not happen in Bellefontaine. It wouldn't happen in Urbana. Just different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. What was it like on your journey making that transition from making state policy to going on the national stage?
Probably the biggest change for me was the committee assignments I got in D.C. It's much more oversight focused than maybe legislative lawmaking focus. Now we're still in the business of, and we passed what I would consider the strongest immigration enforcement border security legislation through the House. Hasn't made it through the Senate, probably won't, with the Democrats in control of the Senate. But so we're still involved in that. But there's just so much focus on your constitutional duty to do oversight of the executive agencies. And when you get on the oversight committee and on the judiciary committee, you're just in the middle of all that. And about 12 years ago, I was working then under Chairman Issa, and we had this the first big issue was when we learned the Internal Revenue Service was targeting conservative groups who were applying for tax-exempt status. And it just seems like I've been in the middle of every big investigation since then. There was that. Then it was
You've had a few, right?
Yeah. Then it was the Benghazi. I was on the select committee on Benghazi. Then it was the whole Mueller stuff, and we were looking at all that from the other side. And then the Democrats, when they impeached President Trump, we were on the team defending President Trump. It just
never stopped.
So that's the difference, because there really wasn't near as much oversight function of state departments on the state level when you're in the legislature as there is when you're in the Congress over the federal agencies. And so that's the biggest change.
Sure.
So I just have to ask, because it's always like in the news. Are we gonna? We're a state with. We talked about the Wright brothers. Are we gonna find out about aliens soon? Like, are you on that committee? Are you? It's wild.
I'm actually, but I wasn't on that subcommittee that did that had that hearing. And so I said to Tim Burchett, who was one of the key players, and who's
I've actually watched a lot of his YouTube clips. He is. I would like to meet him.
He's
someday.
a funny guy.
He's
a Knoxville guy. He's so funny.
Yeah.
And he's a good guy. In fact, when he first ran, we went. My buddy and I went down. We did a fundraiser for him down there, and we're guests at his event. But good guy. But I was kidding him in the hallway afterwards. I said, it was like the next day or something. I said, "Hey Tim," I said, "your next hearing, can you bring in Bigfoot?"
Yes.
And I was just like messing with him. I said, I said, "Bring in."
I don't know if he laughed or not.
He got this smile on his face. I said, "Can you bring in Sasquatch?" And I want the Sasquatch guy who does the beef jerky. I want that one.
Yeah.
And so we're just.
Well, I'll just say for Urbana and downtown Bell Fountain, we'd love to have a festival around this. I mean, from a marketing perspective,
a small town somewhere is doing that.
Yeah, probably true.
Yeah,
true.
All right, at this time, we're going to take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors. Brew Fountain's voted best beer bar in Ohio. Come visit their award-winning team in downtown Bell Fountain for fresh, local craft beer, soups, salads, sandwiches, wine on tap, and handcrafted cocktails. And they're always available to cater your next event with their boxed lunches and platters. Cheers to Small Nation. Big city dining in a small town. Now that's the Syndicate. Join them for fresh steaks, pasta, or seafood for dinner, or stop in for Sunday brunch to experience one of their signature dishes such as chicken and waffles, and maybe even pair it with a mimosa flight. Located at 213 South Main Street in downtown Bell Fountain. Okay, this is kind of a new thing we're doing. It's just kind of a quick show segment. We're just going to lighten it up a little bit and ask you just some fun questions about some of your preferences.
This is dangerous.
It's just about just some little things. So I'm going to introduce this as just a rapid fire kind of question thing, but here we go. Round one. First question. What's your favorite candy?
Ooh, favorite candy.
Butterfinger.
Ooh, good
All
choice.
right. Favorite genre?
Well, Maurice is good though. Any Maurice.
West Liberty. That's right.
The local
Good
stuff.
answer. Good answer.
That's really good. Yeah.
Favorite genre of music?
I'm old school. My dad only country. Back then it was the old joke was two kinds of music, country and western, right?
Conway Twitty. Like, do you have a certain artist that you like? Like,
it would have been like he had us listen to Charlie Pride. It was amazing.
Yeah,
Great baseball player. He was a good baseball player, and then became this amazing talent country music when I was a kid. But then I like the more kind of modern country.
Like that.
Going fishing, you and me going fishing. Who are they? Garth Brooks.
Garth Brooks. Okay.
Well, Garth didn't do that.
That's how you know he's from Ohio. Here.
But Garth is like the best. We've only seen a few concerts ever, and one was Garth. It's amazing.
Great. Are you left or right-handed?
Right-handed.
Right-handed.
But my wife's left-handed, but all her kids are right. Yeah.
All right. Favorite college football team? I was going to say, this is the one.
Yeah, no, I mean, everyone loves a Buckeye, but I'm a Badgers because you always stick with where you school. I love the Badgers. But
you got to
now
get the two best in the country.
But just quickly on that, the new coach for the Badgers is a Buckeye, Luke Fickell.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Some trivia on Fickell. The best, absolutely the best high school heavyweight I've ever seen. Came out of Columbus DeSales, top heavyweight recruit in the country. We wanted him to wrestle one because we were coaching then at Ohio State, but he's all football.
All football.
Yeah.
Amazing coach. Great guy.
Awesome.
Great guy, by the way, too.
What about your favorite NFL team?
It's now the Bengals because you got to love Joe Burrows. But like I told you earlier, I love the Steelers with Jack Lambert, Joe Green, L.C. Green. I can name all the players. I loved all those guys. But
Bengals fan. Now.
Bengals now, yeah.
All right. What's your ideal vacation?
Actually, ideal vacation is staying home in the summer, but having a time where the kids come back. We love where we live. We got a house built in 1837. We got 8 acres. I like to
just turn it
chainsaw.
off.
We sneak out to the golf course, then do the grill and have the kids around. That's like, Yeah, so that's what I love. But anything where we're doing something with one of our kids and their our grandkids or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Favorite restaurant in Ohio?
We're going there tonight. I love this little restaurant in downtown Urbana. It's like what you got here in Bell Fountain. Chetty is Fusion.
Fusion, sure.
And
all right.
I'll probably get the ribeye tonight if we get a chance to.
Hardworking.
We're actually having dinner tonight with your state senator, who is we talk about leadership, and Senator Kopp. I always call him Senator Kopp. He's had a number of different offices in our government. Speaker Kopp too.
Yeah.
But we're having dinner with Matt and Cheryl. I think we're going to go there. But that's
good people.
Cool.
Yeah.
What about Washington, D.C., your favorite restaurant?
What is my favorite? Oh, it's the one. I can't even think of the name of it, but it has the butter cake, the best dessert.
Heard of this place. It's in D.C., butter cake.
Oh, I love going there. But we don't go that often.
People in the comments will be like, we know that place.
Yeah.
So,
the butter,
if you know it in the comments.
Next to my mom's homemade ice cream, butter cake is maybe the greatest dessert ever. Yeah.
Gotcha. Awesome. And the last one here, are you a Coke or a Pepsi guy?
Coke.
Yeah.
He's a definitive,
my kind of guy.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right answer.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That's just a little fun segment.
As we wrap up here, and you just mentioned like the divisiveness and things that you're working on. What message would you have for heading in this next election cycle for our next president? What are the kind of things that you think that person should be working on?
Well, again, I told you I'm 100% for President Trump, but you got to put back in place the policies he had. Like, he said he was going to cut taxes. He did. He said he would reduce regulations. He did, and we had this phenomenal economic growth. And you guys were part of that right here in this part of our state. He said he would secure the border, and he did. He said he'd put conservatives on the court. He did. He said he'd put the embassy in Jerusalem. He did. He said he'd get out of the Iran agreement. He did. I mean, just tons of things he did. So just go campaign. We're going to have it seems like now we're in this perpetual election in America, which is, I don't know if that's a good thing, but we're always seem like we're in election mode. We're going to have this huge election. I think he's going to be our next president, and I think he's going to do just what he did before. Here's what I campaigned on. I'm going to go do that. And that's what the voters expect. And we had phenomenal success. And obviously, you probably saw the stat. I saw it earlier this week. The average family now is paying $704 more a month because of what inflation's done. And there's no way wage growth has kept up with that.
It's not.
And you guys know that. You guys are business guys.
We're feeling it.
Yeah, of course you are. Of course you are. So that is huge, because that is real money. That's real money for anybody, but it's certainly real money for middle class families. So that's just get in there and do what you said, and I just hope it's, like I said, a Republic.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate, Jim, your time today. It's just been great connecting and just hearing more about your story and your background. And thanks for representing our district and our community. And
great district.
We hope to have you back on the show.
We'll do it. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in on this episode of the Small Nation Podcast. We hope that conversation proved valuable to you. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share the episode and follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcasting platform. You can also subscribe to the Small Nation YouTube channel if you prefer to watch your episodes. Follow Small Nation on social media, and we'll see you in the next episode.